Welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast. My name is Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Thursday night, technically a Friday for me. I am off tomorrow.
Hey!
Watching your Bravos play, watching some Fun Belt football, which just went 35-35. They have killed the over officially.
That sounds like a good game, though. I'm loving that we just ran Kershaw off the mound. So
yes, you did. Back to back gappers.
Yes, sir.
Y'all are loose, man. Y'all are the loosest of the four teams left. Y'all are having fun in the dugout. I mean, I'm sure you're loaded with some beers. It's the sixth, so you got a couple more innings. If Brian has any outbursts while we're recording in these last, basically 4 innings, we will not edit them out. Y'all will hear it live.
I will keep it to a minimum, or at least try to.
You do you, man. Somebody takes one out the park. I want to hear a celebratory yell. All right, well, folks, obviously every week, we do know the enemy. We're going to hit that in a second. But earlier this week, pretty big announcement came down. And it's one of those things that really, in my opinion, is a game changer for NCAA, the NCAA in general. I'm going to read the Brett McMurphy tweet. The NCAA Council approves proposal to allow one-time transfers in all sports without sitting out a season. It'll vote on it in January for final approval. And sources are told Stadium, who is what McMurphy works for, if approved, this would become effective August 1st of 2021. Brian, give me your first initial thoughts on how this affects the Hokies.
I mean, it can be nothing but good things for us. We've seen how we've dealt with both the transfer portal, coupled with some of the problems we've had getting that immediate eligibility for some of the bigger name guys we've got that came in, whether it's Brock or Burmeister that didn't get approved, or Raheem Blackshear that got approved upon appeal.
Yep.
We won't have to deal with that anymore. And we're showing that when we bring guys in from the transfer portal, they're getting on the field, they're producing. We're able to show that, hey, when you come here, you're coming here to play and play big time. Looking at what Justice Reed has done, looking at what Khalil Herbert's done, just in this young season already. I mean, that's got to be a good thing for us, especially as we're trying to kind of clean up a good but not as good as we wanted 2021 class.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I think it does. I think it benefits not only us, I think it benefits everyone that's not a blue blood, because, to your point, now you're evaluating the talent. We're doing a good job of that at the collegiate level. But something that someone we follow on Twitter follows the show, tweeted out, and I love this. This is Hokie pharmacists out there. More like this protects the kids that are often misled in high school. They deserve a second chance, and if they are not a good fit, but can excel elsewhere. And I think that sums it up, and that's why I mentioned this is going to unbenefit the blue blood. The blue bloods who are selling essentially their prestige. We're a top 5 university. Kid gets there, and they're not a fit, and they're like, this is not what we've talked about before, Brian. This is not what I was sold.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. Like, I'm basically like, they recruited me to steal me away from someone else. Well, now you don't have to worry. I can transfer right away. Like, I can get to where I probably truly should have been. So, to me now, the recruiting, once a guy signs the LOI, it still doesn't stop. Because if you were one of those final couple for a kid, I'm not saying you got to go crazy, but I think it's one of those things where it's going to be check on them hey, how's it going? How's life? How's school treating you? Because the game grows bigger. And if you have one of those, 4 or 5-star kids who essentially chooses the prestige over probably a fit, maybe you only lose them 1 year.
You definitely don't. You're not going to unfriend or unfollow a guy on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter just because they commit to another school. Now you're definitely going to continue following what they're doing, how they're doing, and see if, another connections kind of sparks up as things change for them, and see how they're doing there. Because as you said, a lot of these kids are sold on, come here, play for, school that's won 3 or 4 national titles, this, that, and the other. But at some point, it's not the other promises that were made, whether it's playing time or, where they would be on the depth chart, or if they would be traveling, whatever it may be, man. It's not happening for them.
Yep.
Now they've got an option, and they don't have to worry about wasting a year sitting out in order to kind of realize those opportunities.
Exactly. And now I think it's going to change just your basic recruiting very in some way, because now, to the point what you just said, now you've got to be really careful, because if you're banking on this kid playing 3 years from now and you're selling him all the stuff you talked about, and he walks in and says, I'm not getting what you promised, there's no more holding them. Yeah. There's no more holding the kid.
You got to sell the work now. You got to sell the work. You got to sell winning. I mean, you can sell winning. Winning always sells, but you got to sell the work as part of that winning. You can't just sell, we'll get you out there, and then it just doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And then, the kid's the one that's paying for that.
Exactly. And it's truly fair to, in general, anyone can do anyone can transfer from school to school. If you've got the grades, Brian, we had our buddy Brian Wilkerson at Longwood for a year, had the grades, moved to Tech. Did Longwood stop him from transferring to Tech?
No.
No. It's your decision. I'm going to say something. Give Brian all the credit in the world. He's over here holding his tongue, his brain, continuously ripping the ball. Like, through his soliloquy just a second ago, his eyes were super huge, like he just wanted to stop. Kudos for staying professional and on point. Another base hit, the game is blown open. 6-1.
Yep. Every ball is finding a gap right now.
And then they're being hit hard. It's not little bloopers or liners. Y'all are smashing the snot out of the ball right now. All right. Well, now that it's 6-1, he might be able to focus without having an outburst.
Exactly. Yeah, I got a little cushion here. Exactly. Got a little cushion. Hopefully, we won't have an 11-run inning like we had in Game 3.
Oh gosh, Brian, I can only imagine your face yesterday, probably getting ready to eat a little dinner, watch the game. Well, not watching this game tonight. 11-0. Jeezy, what the hell happened there?
Sat down. It was a 2-run game. I was like, all right, 2 runs, 2 outs. Not the best start, but we got a 2-1 advantage. Let's see how this goes. Walk away, make a little drink for myself, come back. It's like 7-0. I'm like, wait, it was 2 when I walked.
I was literally there for 5 minutes. Holy crap.
Yep.
All right, guys. And Arkansas State's about to score again, too. All right, well, let's move to it. Know the enemy. Boston College Eagles, led by Jeff Hafley. Heard Hafley's interview this afternoon on 910. Sounds like a pretty thoughtful, pretty intelligent guy. So we're going to break down, as we always do, both sides of the ball. Give you some stats, some data. Brian's going to give you a little tape breakdown of what he sees. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball, Brian. This offense clearly led by Phil Jerkovich, the quarterback, the Notre Dame transfer. So far this season, 1,181 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a passer rating of 145.3. He's completing about 65% of his passes. And, solid ranks with all those. Passer rating ranks 29th, so right on that upper third. 19th in completion percentage, so clearly in the upper third. And then passing yards per game, he's 12th in the nation. He completes about 25 passes per game. That's a pretty high number in my opinion. Passes per completion at 11.93, which ranks 45th. Now, he's actually a little bit better in the yards per attempt, which is 7.7. That gets him up to 34, so he's on the top end of that, which kind of hopefully when you get to reviewing here, it kind of tells me they're probably continuously pushing the ball downfield. Now, we look at his numbers. I think me and you probably both are on the page. They're solid numbers. Nothing spectacular, but nothing awful. But something I do, I've done it for every single offense we've looked at. I always look at the sack totals, and they're not good. BC has given up 16 total sacks in 4 games. That's an average of 4 a game. There are only 2 teams that are worse in the country. One is Syracuse and one is Duke. What did we do to Duke, Brian?
We put some pressure on those boys a little bit.
Absolutely. So, Brian, when you looked at some of the tape, what did you see not only from Phil, but his offensive line and the weapons he has?
So the big thing, Jurkovec reminds me a little bit of kind of a young Ben Roethlisberger. I know Fuente said it, and when I looked at the tape, he was pretty much spot on. Kind of a big body guy, awkward but athletic. He kind of looks like almost like a Gronk type guy back in the backfield throwing the ball around. So it looks awkward, but it's effective. He's got a little bit of a wiggle for a big dude, but he really likes to identify the man coverage and kind of throw it that way and let the receiver make a play. He does that a lot, especially to Zay Flowers and Hunter Long. Those are his big 2 targets that he likes to hit in the passing game. Hunter Long on a lot of those kind of short crossers, sometimes up the seam. He really likes to hit Zay Flowers up the seam or on a skinny post. So he's pushing the ball down the field to Flowers when he's targeting him in the passing game. Hunter Long is going to be the bigger problem, though, just because he's a handful in coverage, and if we don't tackle him, he can make us pay pretty bad as well.
Oh, don't man, not after last.
After last week, I got to say it, man. We're going to have to tackle this guy. As far as Jurkovec is concerned, though, I mean, he uses his legs to avoid the rush. He doesn't really use them to move the sticks too often. Like, he'll take off if there's nothing downfield or if, like, rush gets to him early and he just has to bail on it. But he's more of a guy that's going to move around in the pocket to throw downfield. And he's very much like Ben Roethlisberger, where he'll take a sack before he will throw it away.
Okay.
And that tells me a little bit about kind of those sack numbers that you were alluding to there. He's going to try to stand in the pocket as long as he can to try to get a guy open and make a throw. So that does give us some chances to potentially, get a sack fumble, maybe get an interception. But they've done a pretty good job of limiting turnovers so far. He hasn't thrown, I think, 2 or 3 interceptions so far. 2 interceptions so far this year, and had 1 strip fumble on a sack. Just literally got the ball ripped out of his hands against Pitt. But otherwise, has been pretty good protecting the football. Let's talk about their offensive line a little bit.
Got to.
They are okay, especially I'd say they're above average in pass pro, but they're dealing with a lot of 5 and 7 step drops. They drop back a lot. They actually run a lot of ace formation. It's a very pro style offense. So you see a lot of shotgun and a lot of ace formation. They don't do a whole lot of spreading the field. Actually, I would go counter that. They actually have a lot of tight formations, some bunch looks and things like that. A lot of 12 personnel with a tight end and an H-back. And they run a lot of play action off those inside zone looks from the ace and also from the inside zone from the shotgun. So you'll see a lot of play action, 5-step drops, 7-step drops where they're trying to drive the ball down the field.
Real quick,
and
Brian,
again, when they do that, yeah, go ahead.
Does it shock you what they're doing when you take a look at Frank Signetti is their offensive coordinator? Is it any shock? Is it like he's going away from what he knows, or he's trying to implement what he's done throughout his career?
He's trying to implement what he's done. He's doing definitely a lot more pro style things like when he was quarterbacks coach in the NFL. So you're seeing a lot of those elements get brought into what he's doing on offense at Boston College. They're not doing a whole lot of lateral stretch you out and then find those seams. They're doing a lot more line up, run it down your throat, kind of play action. Reminds me a little bit of kind of that Bruce Arians offense that we saw when Big Ben was had Arians as a coordinator in Pittsburgh.
All right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the tight end and the running backs. They use the running backs some in the passing game, but usually it's going to go to the tight end. They like to go up the seam. I did see them send the running back up the seam a couple times as well. So be looking for the running backs to get involved in the passing game, but it's not going to be your traditional screen and swing type game. It's going to be kind of route tree type items that you're going to see them running. And again, I mean, Zay Flowers is the dude that can make the big plays that can hurt you with one play. So you gotta make sure he does not get behind you. Had a big touchdown beating man coverage against Pitt. Got to step on the corner, got separation at the catch, and just ran away from him.
That was the 77-yarder, wasn't it? The big throw to the top. Yeah, I remember vaguely seeing that, and then looking through his stats this week, I saw that was his long play.
He had he was lined up. I mean, they play real tight. So he was the Z, and just ran a skinny post and completely beat his man 1-on-1, and Dracovic put the ball right on him.
So it sounds like Dracovic, good deep ball. Like we're not looking at a lack of arm here. I'm guessing the way.
Definitely he can make all the throws. I mean, he's not Mahomes or Josh Allen or anything out there, but he can make all the throws you want from a quarterback.
Got it, man. Kind of looking at who Brian discussed here, I did dive into, what their team looks like. And you mentioned Hunter Long, and it is eye-popping how this guy's what he's doing this year. Hunter Long through 4 games has 31 receptions for 362 yards, averaging 11.7 a carry. Only 2 touchdowns, but right now, he is top 10 in the nation in receptions amongst all players, not just tight ends. He might be leading the nation in tight ends. I should go back and look that up. But when you just see a tight end in the top 10, you assume he's probably the best in the country. He's averaging about 90 a game. So as you've already mentioned, Brian, integral part of this offense. And you kind of look around at some of the draft sites. He is being touted as a top 5 tight end in next year's draft. And, man, you look at his size, it is absolutely not a shock. 6'5", 253 pounds. He's a prototype.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about that. Now, you mentioned your other guy, Zay Flowers. Oh, yeah, he is their big play. There is not even a doubt about it. 5'11", 178, only 21 receptions, but for 405 yards. So he is averaging, close to 20 yards a reception with 4 touchdowns. The long one there at Pitt that really, kept that game, there. He's averaging over 100 a game. He is 7th in the country in receiving yards, which is super impressive. And the per game, he is 15th, obviously, because there's some teams that's already played 5. And I mean, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch, right? I don't think anybody would doubt that to see 2 guys like that, those numbers, what they're doing, their size, what you've mentioned, where they're running their routes, hell of a 1-2 punch. But as much as those guys who, have combined for 52 receptions, they're still getting other guys involved. I mean, you talked about the running back. The big one is Travis Levy. He's 3rd on the team with 11 receptions for 74 yards. So, you hear that, that's averaging right about 7 a carry. Usually when you see a tight end, a running back with a lot of swing passes, a lot of checkdowns, usually that average is similar to the UNC running back last week, Michael Carter. It's usually between about 4 and 6. When you say he's running the route tree in full, makes sense that he's almost at 7 to 8 per carry. Another wide receiver is Jalen Gill, 10 receptions for 78 yards. Again, they're definitely spreading all around outside their big 2. And then kind of the last one me and you talked about when we were getting prepared was C.J. Lewis. Big-bodied, kind of their go-up-and-get-it guy, 6'3", 217. 7 receptions.
He's the guy that Drakovic's going to look for if there's kind of nothing there and he sees him one-on-one. He'll throw it up and just let him go get it a little bit.
That's the old Roethlisberger. Somebody's around his waist. You know what? Fling it. He's big enough.
Yep.
Let him try to go catch it. So we sit here and Brian, they have weapons. So as you started, looking deeper at the tape, and obviously you got to see what things worked, what things didn't work. What kind of scheme do you think we should be looking at to slow down this passing attack?
We definitely need to go with a lot of cover 3 and keep everything in front of us. We don't want Zay Flowers to go out there and beat us on 3 plays. So that's the first thing I'm taking away. The second thing I'm trying to take away is get as few targets away from Hunter Long as I can. So what I would try to do with that is maybe even have, responsibility where, if it's a pass play, have a guy that's running man with him and kind of maybe zone it across the board everywhere else. We saw that UNC did that against BC on some downs, and it ended up working a little bit for them. So that might be something that we could look at doing ourselves, is kind of having like a guy like Connor, match up on him, basically one-on-one, or if they're sending him across the formation, maybe, switch that around depending on, whether you put like Tisdale on him if he's on one side of the formation, or Connor if he's on the other.
Okay.
However you end up making it work, I would definitely keep a guy, either if you're not manning up on him, keeping a guy that's playing kind of a shell right around him, so he's not going to beat you, nickel and diming it down the field.
I got you. Let me ask this. You mentioned last week with UNC, one of the big plays we got beat by was that quarter coverage. Do you see us bringing that back and just trying to, whoever's playing that, half the field, listen, you've got to be disciplined. Do you see?
I would say we would try to keep. I wouldn't like half field responsibility against Zay Flowers.
Okay.
I prefer if we were going to do any sort of quarter half, we would need to make sure that Flowers was on the 2-quarter side. So that there's 2 guys in those zones versus just the one covering half the field.
So if you guys see that quarter coverage, no, Brian is probably throwing things at his television Saturday night. Like, why are we doing this? There was one other question I had on this. Blitzing, do you think we can get there with 4, or do you think we're going to have to send some blitzes?
I think we can get there with 4, but I would like to send blitzes occasionally, because he did occasionally struggle with the blitz. And again, he is someone that's going to hold on the ball regardless of what we're bringing at him. So we might get some coverage sacks, or some, if we get immediate penetration, might get him off his game a little bit. So I still want to see some blitzing, just to keep that honest there. But I think we can still get pressure with 4 when we need to.
Got it. All right. Well, Brian, let's wrap up the pass section and let's get over to their run game. And Brian, well, in my opinion, it's BC in the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad rushing offense.
Yep.
I mean, they are literally the 3rd worst rushing offense in the country. They are averaging 60.3 yards a game. They are the worst team in the country. Only 1.87 per carry. Their leading rusher is David Bailey with 155 yards. He doesn't even double the 1.8. He's at 3.1 per carry. You want to know who the leading rushing touchdown person is?
That's going to be their quarterback on a couple sneaks, I would.
Yeah, he's leading them with 3. I would normally say, like, they're bad because they're, clearly we've shown that they're passing all the time. Well, when I kind of dug in and started breaking down, no, it's not that way. They're really only passing 55% of the time compared to 45% of the time running. So basically, they're keeping it somewhat balanced and playing just absolutely terrible. So Brian, when you went back and looked at the tape, hopefully you found some tape of the running game.
Yeah.
Why are they terrible, horrible, no good, and very bad at rushing the ball?
Because they have linemen that aren't very good at run blocking. What I'm seeing is that I'm not sure if it's just they're not a great fit for this type of scheme yet or what it might be, but they are not having a good job with kind of the pro-style inside zone that this team is running now. Now, when you look at the run game, it's a lot different than what we saw last week. We saw a lot of lateral runs or misdirection to set up the inside zone and the outside zone. There's very, very little of that. Mostly what we're looking at is downhill between the tackles, inside zone, with occasionally mixing things up, doing a few different things here or there. But we're mostly getting a few plays, and they're running downhill in between the tackles. So this should be a little bit easier of a matchup for our linebackers this week, where they're pretty much reading downhill run or play action and having to get back into their zone. So hopefully that they will handle things a little bit better this week. We will see. But as I said earlier, they run a lot of ace formation, so they're running that zone with an ace back and the quarterback under center, which we don't see very much of anymore. I mean, most of the offenses we see, even ones that don't incorporate zone read or heavy misdirection, are still taking those snaps from the shotgun. So probably they're about 55-45, pretty much like their balance there on the run and pass, whether they're in ace or whether they're in shotgun. So you're going to see a lot of things that they run out of that. They, like I said, they mostly like inside zone. Sometimes they just zone it across the board. Sometimes they will take their H back, and right after the snap, they'll run him across the formation to seal on the backside. And that's really the only two variations of that play that they run. And they weren't very effective with it. They had a couple where they got in a cutback lane right behind where the H-back was sealing, and were able to get like a 8 or 10 yard gain, but they're not getting large chunk plays like we saw UNC get both in other games that we watched on tape, and especially when they were playing us and got a bunch of chunk plays. It's a couple yards in a cloud of dust, a couple yard loss if we get some penetration up the middle. I mean, it's very pedestrian. And occasionally when they run out of that shotgun, they'll do some inside zone there. Occasionally they'll get some jet motion and kind of run of inverted veer and let Dracovic try to get a few yards. But that's kind of few and far between, and I think they're almost running it just to keep the defense honest and let them know that they do have a quarterback that can do it. But I don't think that they're doing it with any sort of effectiveness.
Well, let me ask this, Brian, and I mean, you talked about it earlier, but just so people can understand, because I think people look at BC during the Adazio years, they had some really good running backs and really good running attacks. But the way you kind of explained it to me is Cignetti's going to a pro style of run blocking versus, and as you were explaining, I kind of asked, so Brian, is what not Cignetti, but what Adazio is, he just essentially, is it a college power game versus your traditional pro? And you kind of hit on the basics of that. Just real quick, explain what's the difference and why they aren't as successful, even though it's essentially, some of the same guys as last year.
So you saw a lot more like pulls, traps, pin and pulls with Adazio's system. Kind of letting the linemen do a little bit more in space and kind of confusing the front a little bit with some read steps that look a little different than what they're actually giving you. And with this being very pro style, they're not actually giving you a lot. I mean, what the linebackers are reading is what's coming at them. It's essentially, is the line doing everything they need to do to get the hole open for the back to make a play? And they're just not doing that with any frequency right now.
Got it. All right. Just a few other points of data before we turn over to the defense. Overall, third down conversion percentage at 44.8, which isn't a bad number, so okay there. They also only had 3 turnovers in 4 games, which tells me they play very clean. It's been the 2 picks and then the strip sack fumble that you mentioned. But this is an interesting stat. Brian, they've had 17 red zone possessions. They have converted 15 of those, which is, 29th in the country. I feel like that's
Yeah,
pretty good, right? What if I told you, Brian, of those 15, only 8 are touchdowns?
not great.
No.
Not great. Not great.
Everything you just mentioned and us throwing those numbers out there, I think when they get inside that red zone, that inability to run the ball, it shows. Because if you're able to run the ball a lot better than what they are, I think they should have, basically 10-5, 11-4. But when you can't run the ball, what we talked about earlier, it's easier for the back end to play. You don't
Yep.
have 60 yards behind you.
You're not worried about Zay Flowers beating you for a 60-yard gain. You've
Nope.
got 15, 20 yards to cover, and that not only takes away Zay's big play, but it also has smaller windows for Hunter Long to work as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's flip over to the defense now, Brian. Let me give you some real quick stats right here before you take a look. Total defense ranks 29th, giving up 370 yards a game, about 5 yards per play. So, right on the borderline of average for the teams that have played so far. Rush defense, slightly better than the pass defense. Rush defense giving up 135 a game at 3.67 a carry. The passing defense giving up 235 yards a game at 11 per completion. Now, they do have a pretty good sack total number. They are in the top 20. They've sacked the quarterback 12 times, so that's an average of 3 a game. So, Brian, as you started looking at their scheme, at their personnel, anything jump out, or the numbers that say they're okay? They're not great. They're okay.
I'll say this. I think in terms of front end and back end, they're probably the best defense we've seen to this point.
Okay.
And that's more because of the way they do a good job of turning action from the edge back inside. They run a similar defense to what we ran under Bud Foster. Less blitzing, less man, but still kind of similar concepts. It's more of the 4-2-5 that we saw in the kind of mid 2000s than what we've seen in the last decade, where that whip position is kind of more of a traditional linebacker, just a little more athletic type guy. Almost like a double strong safety that you got in there. So they're solid against the run. They do a good job, like I said, turning some of the lateral stuff back inside and letting those backers kind of clean things up. And by doing that, they do a good job of setting the edge. They struggle when you run right at them, though. If you're able to run at them between the tackles, they're susceptible to busting off some big plays. We saw Pitt have a couple big plays late in the game with some of that inside and outside zone action. So they are susceptible to that. But they don't bite on like misdirection with the running backs in motion a lot. Stay at home pretty well. So they do a pretty decent job of limiting big plays. Usually when they get beat on big plays, it's because they were blocked well, not necessarily because they were out of position or they made a mistake. So, but they do have a tendency to overplay the zone run. So that's going to give a chance to let our quarterback, maybe have a little keeper get in space and make a big play on the edge there.
All right, let me ask you a question, because something you said is they don't bite on a lot of misdirection with the running backs in motion and stuff like that. Now, is that because they're staying disciplined, or is it more of don't worry about all the frills, what's in front of you? Pay attention to what's in front of you, where I'm thinking if they're not biting and someone like Raheem Blackshear or Trey Turner gets one of those jet sweeps and they're staying at home, I am assuming there's going to be a very big alley if they're staying at home.
So they do a good job with their kind of guys that are playing outside there, whether it's the strong safety up in the box or it's the whip on the other side. They do a good job with them kind of getting penetration on the edge and spilling everything back inside. So they kind of don't pay attention to the motion too much because they're so good at using those guys to turn everything back in that they'll live with it if they end up getting one or two where they get outflanked.
Got it. What about the pass game, Brian? How are they defending that?
They like to bring a lot of pressure, man, especially on obvious passing down, third and long, second and long. They run a lot of cover three. They keep pretty much everything, all the business in front of them. They'll occasionally let one deep one kind of creep in there, but they do a really good job of keeping most of the stuff in front of them. And we saw it when we watched the UNC tape. I know I was mostly watching that to kind of scout UNC, but when I was looking at it, I was like, well, they're doing a good job of kind of keeping all the big plays in front of them, and that showed up on the film here for Pitt as well. When I was looking at it, they keep everything in front of them. They don't let one play kind of ruin their game, but because of that, when they kind of get in the red zone, they're not great. For a team that doesn't give up a ton of points, when a team is able to get a drive going on them, they tend to get in the end zone. So I don't know if it's just they don't have that mentality of kind of flipping the switch once they're in the red zone to have to bow up or what it is, but mostly what they're trying to do is keep everything in front of them and let the offense make some mistakes that end up either getting them off the field or giving them the ball back.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Brian, because I look here and one of the data points I got to pull out is red zone attempts 12. They've given up 75% of scores, so they've given up 9 scores. They've given up 8 touchdowns. So what you just perfectly described is it the bend don't break, do they not have the mental will, or is it just simply they're playing just such disciplined defense? It's this is what we're supposed to do. I'm not supposed to bite on that. I'm supposed to trust my guy. When there's less space behind you, there's a chance that if he just makes one mistake, it's 7 yards and it's a touchdown, or it's 15 yards and it's a touchdown. There's no more room to clean up. It's end zone or bust. Where
they're not able to say, okay, well, we're keeping it in front of it. Well, in front of it's still a touchdown at that point. You know what I'm saying? So that's what ends up happening, and also being a little squishy in the middle there on the run. A lot of teams are running the football a little bit more between the tackles once they get in the red area. So it's kind of a way that almost offsets some of the things that they do really well. The rest of the field almost ends up coming back to bite them a little bit, that portion of the field. So, and they're not, I looked at it too. They're not really that great with some of the swing passes that get out to the wide receivers really fast. Their defensive backs were getting blocked by the wide receivers a lot. So if we can get the ball outside of those spill guys, we can do a little damage in that game as well.
So the guy who feasted against this defense last year that came down from Rutgers could potentially feast again?
Bingo.
Yeah, Raheem, I saw that stat line, 8 for 130 last year, which is kind of nuts. And then you just say that, and it's just like, oh, I hope you guys don't forget about him at all.
Yeah, I mean, they're focusing on Blackshear that also killed them when Kansas played them last year. And then, oh, look, Raheem Blackshear also killed this defense last year.
As did Juice.
I know it's a little bit of a different system that they're running this year, but it's pretty much the same players.
They're going to have some shell shock, aren't they? Cool. Those guys were in the Big 12 and the – wait a second. Big 10. Wait a second.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, damn it. All right, just a couple other things to wrap up on the defense, Brian. I looked at their turnover line, and you think this would be great. They forced 8 turnovers in 4 games. But then, as me and you, as memory serves and as note serves, they had 5 from Duke. So they've only had 3 in their other 3 games. So effectively, they're averaging 1 turnover a game. They've only turned the ball over 3 times. So in me, it's kind of like you take the Duke game out of the equation, they're almost a 50-50 split. I don't look at the turnover margin on that when you have such one big swing game.
Duke is an outlier, especially what Duke has done against the other teams they played. We're the only team that they didn't go out there and just hand the ball away a few times. So, definitely that 5 is an outlier. I mean, even if you make it a 3, they're still below, 1.5 turnover a game. So
exactly
good, not great. Nothing to beat your chest about necessarily, but they certainly can be opportunistic if you let them.
Yeah. And then third down conversion rate at a 44.3. Again, okay, not terrible, not great. But when you start mentioning about they're keeping everything in front of them, and I look at the stat I pulled up of they've given up 88 first downs in 4 games. It makes sense. It's kind of like that Duke stat. Duke was giving up roughly 23 first down in the game. They don't want to give up the big play. Thus, you have to drive the field. And
Yep.
that's good and well. I think with what we have, I think we can do that. And as I say that, Brian, let's quick turn. Let's get to the pivotal players. Let's start on offense, Brian. As soon as I said Brian, number one on offense, you screamed
Captain Hook.
Hendon
Hendon
Hooker.
Hooker, ladies and gentlemen. Hendon Hooker. When I looked at this, what they do on defense, we're going to have to be effective in the short passing game because I don't think we're going to be able to take as many shots as we have taken so far this year. It's going to be definitely more, 25 yards and under, not the 20-plus yard gainers that we've seen in some of these games. And Hendon Hooker's going to have to be accurate and deliver balls on time and make the right reads. So that's going to be really important. His legs are going to be important on some of those zone reads and, the inverted veer and stuff like that. So, look for him to have some success with that as well, because they have been sometimes successful on biting down really hard on the backside when they see, inside outside zones. So, Hooker might have some opportunities to get on the edge and make some plays there. So that's my first big one. Who do you like?
Well, Brian, I think the guy we brought up second today when we were putting this was Brock. And I think the way you just mentioned what they like to do on defense and occasionally bring in pressure, and then the way that some of those zone runs, they leave gaps. The man in the middle, Brock Hoffman, obviously, we've already seen it through, 3 games. Brock has good command of making the right calls, making the right reads. We haven't had too many plays blow up yet because he's putting that whole line, who all the guys are talented, in the right positions. But
Yep.
then you start mentioning about those zones in some of those back lanes, and we know he likes to be nasty, and I do believe that the way me and you discussed it, if they're having trouble getting there, it's probably going to be Brock putting us in the right spot, but probably Brock leading the way in creating the alleys. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, those those inside combo blocks on the zones are going to be the key. With Brock making a lot of those pre-snap calls and Brock, working with the guard on those handoffs. So that's going to be the key for me. Whether we can get, Herbert to the second level, let him do what he does best, which is make guys miss in space and, take it to the house. So Brock's definitely going to be big there. When we talked about the short passing game, we talked about the swing. We talked about, getting the ball outside and letting the wide receivers block a little bit, but it's going to begin and end with Big Stone Gap. James Mitchell this week, man. If he can have another big game like he had against UNC, working underneath, working up the seam, working some of those slants, I'm going to feel really good about this game because that's where we can kind of get them, get some yards on them where they're a little soft there in the middle in coverage. So, look for that to happen. Hopefully we can get him going. What do you think, buddy?
No, I'm with you on that. I think Big Stone Gap is going to be one of the keys, not only because of the way you talk about the way they like to bring pressure, and obviously that's going to leave the middle of the field open for some quick seam routes, some hopefully little crossers, some little, some quick digs to the middle. But the other piece is, Brian, as you were mentioning that on defense, do they have anybody that can cover him? Is there anybody that popped out of your mind that said, hey, man, this guy could keep Big Stone Gap to a reasonable game?
They had a couple linebackers that I think can maybe cover him in the short passing game, but I just think his athleticism as the game wears on is going to take over. I don't think any guys can run with him, and then just the big body that he has, I think eventually is going to wear them down over the course of a game. So I wouldn't say that they're necessarily susceptible, but I think that if he has kind of a good one of his better games that they could definitely take advantage of what they do on defense.
Got it. All right, well, let's turn it over to the defense now, pivotal players. And holding down the top spot for the second week in a row, the Heavenly Devil himself, Divine Diablo.
Yeah, he did not get to suit up last week, so he's back here again. And he's back here again because of what we saw last week and because of how much they like to throw the ball down the field. So that's kind of the 1-2 punch, man. Diablo cleaned up so much, especially in that game against NC State. Did such a good job of cleaning up some of those run plays.
Yeah,
he's definitely going to be. It'd be nice to have him back, and in the coverage aspect. I mean, with some of the way they drive the ball down the field with the football in the passing game.
Yep.
Having a guy that's that experienced, that talented, that's what you want because he is the guy. He's the quarterback of that secondary, and that's who you want in the game against a team that's going to throw it down the field like this.
Absolutely, man. There's no doubt about it. We saw how much he was missing last week. We saw among some stats that I cannot remember who put up. If you put them up, please tag yourself and put it on the Boundary Corner when we release this on Friday. But we were 12% missed tackles game one. The last two games where he was absent, 22%, 24%. And I think that's big. I think it's big for the linebackers knowing that he's back there. I think putting people in the right situations. So without a doubt, Divine Diablo holding down number one. Brian, who's our number two?
It's going to be Chamari Connor. And that's going to be because we're going to need him, his physicality at the line of scrimmage, but we're also going to need him covering Hunter Long. And he's going to need to show better skills at that than what he showed against Daz Newsome. I think he will just because, number one, Hunter Long, for all the gifts and talents he has, is not quick and elusive like Daz Newsome.
Oh, no, not at all.
And number two, because he is a tight end, Connor will be able to actually use his physicality a lot more than he was against Newsome, where if he does get away from Connor, he can run away from Connor. That's not going to be the case with Hunter Long. Hunter Long is definitely a guy that can make plays down the field, but he's not a 4-4 guy that's going to just run away from Connor like Daz Newsome.
Yeah, Connor or whoever's going to rotate to that, covering Long, but I think it's going to be Chamari most of the day. And as Daz wasn't a good matchup, this is a good matchup. Again, we've mentioned numerous times before, if Chamari makes it in the league, he is going to be a strong safety. And many times a strong safety, the prototypical what you're supposed to cover is you're going to cover the tight end, or if there is a bigger running back, that's your responsibility. So to me, it's a good matchup. We need him to play within himself, though, because last week, with the ejection, what I'm hoping is he's one of those players that puts that immediately out of his mind. Don't play timid. Play within yourself. Yep. This is a guy that's not going to run away from you. He's bigger than you, yeah, but you've got the skill set to contain him most of the day.
Yeah.
All right, Brian.
And I'd like to see him, be a little aggressive with the way he approaches the coverage because, unlike Daz, he can make up some ground if he guesses wrong.
Yeah.
So play aggressive, not too aggressive, but don't go out there trying not to fail because we don't want that either.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, Brian. So this is going to be an easy one. Brian, for the team that literally is the third worst team at giving up quarterback sacks, who's your number three?
Defensive ends, buddy. I would say particularly Justice Reed, but I could see Belmar and a couple other guys getting in there as well. Drakovic's going to hold on to the football. He's going to stay behind the line of scrimmage and try to keep looking downfield to throw the ball. We are going to have opportunities to put him on the ground. We potentially have opportunities to get the ball out of his hands.
Yep.
We got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and you just mentioned it, him holding on to the ball, getting him down. When we get there for Belmar, for Barno, for Reed, it's going to be you get there, get him down. 'Cause once he's
Yeah,
down,
don't lose your leverage because he's just athletic enough to make you miss, make you look foolish, and still get the ball off. So play with the right leverage. When you get there, wrap him up, get him to the turf.
let me ask this because you mentioned it earlier. You said they mentioned a lot of ace sets. Is this a lot of ace, one tight end, two tight end sets?
12 personnel, so 2 tight ends, usually tight end and H-back.
Okay. You might have mentioned 12 personnel earlier. I might not have caught it. It might have went through my ears. So clearly Long's not going to be involved in that. So in my opinion, that somewhat helps us out determining wherever they're lining him up is probably not going to be where they're blocking where their help tight end is. So I think that gives us a schematic advantage to know where you're going to put him. Because as soon as you say, if Long's on the right and then they shift the guy to the right side of the line because Reed is over there, well, that's fine because you're telling us everything where you're worried about.
Yeah. They run to the strength when they usually have an H-back. When they put both on the line of scrimmage, that's when it's hard to determine which direction they're running. But they usually run to the strength when they have the 12 personnel with the H-back. Like I said, they usually bring that H-back back across the formation to seal the backside. When they're two tight ends on the line of scrimmage, they usually just are running straight zone across the board.
All right. All right, Brian, well, time for the moment of truth today. Predictions for Saturday night in Lane Stadium.
Do I get to lead this week?
You lead.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Give me 38-21.
All right.
Hokies.
38-21.
I think we score the football against these guys. I don't think they can stop our running game, and I think Hooker's going to make as many or more plays as any other quarterback has made against them, and they haven't seen a running game like this. So I think we score. I think we score more than Pitt. I think we score more than UNC. I think we put up 38 points.
Nice, man. I'm not that far from you either. I'm Virginia Tech 41, BC 21. A lot of the same reasons. Looking at their dreadful red zone numbers, I think we will get down there and score more times than not into the end zone. And I'm only putting them at 21 because I think to your point too about the running game, I think we're going to come out mad on both sides of the ball. And I think the way I feel is we're going to probably hit them similar to the way we hit NC State. And they probably could get to 27, maybe even 30, but I think they're going to be at a point in the second half where they're going to have to go for it numerous times instead of taking 3 points. They're going to be down so much. It's like we've got to go. We can't sit here and, and try to chip away because when they get the ball, they're probably going to go score again. And if we don't try to catch up, it's not going to be a good thing.
All right, so we got the prediction, buddy. What was the uniform reveal this week?
Uniform reveal, very traditional. Well, seemingly traditional, right? Uniform this week, we are going with the white, maroon, white unis. I love the look.
Okay.
The helmet looks very crisp. It looks like fall. It's not orange, so we can't. Those who are blaming that the orange pants and orange uniforms are the reason we lost last week, well, we can't go that this week. So, yeah. Now, Brian, one of your favorite guys, got 25 this week.
Yes, he did. Amari Barno, 25. And I will say this, he earned it. He had a pretty darn good game against UNC, all things considered, especially the way he played in the second half, got a sack in the second half. Did a good job. Looks like he's coming around a little bit in terms of not just being a guy that needs to have that one read where he's, going after the quarterback. He's starting to play a little more balance, which is nice to see now that he's got some reps. So good for him. Look forward to see 25 making a few sacks this Saturday.
25 on the line of scrimmage, always a beautiful, beautiful thing. All right. Well, Brian, let's turn it over our ACC and college football picks this week. Last week, man, both of us had good weeks.
Hey,
You hit 5-3. I went at 6-2. Get back in the winning way. So again, folks, if you're playing what we're telling you, you might be making yourself some money. And now we're getting to the point, Ryan, because we've been playing so good, me and you might be looking at opening up an account together. Hey, mybookie.com, if you're listening, contact us via Twitter. We will be more than glad to sponsor. We would like a nice little bankroll to start out on. But we'll sponsor you every week.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, I wouldn't be against it. I know you wouldn't. All right,
Definitely not.
Let's kick it off, Brian. I will lead.
I already go for it, buddy.
Georgia Tech, Clemson, high noon game. Clemson laying 27. Last week, took Clemson to cover, and they covered. This week, I'm going to take them to cover again because I just can't see. I can't see Georgia Tech even without even with Clemson potentially turning off the gas, getting within 4 scores of them. I mean, my mind says somewhere in the neighborhood of like 42-14. Excuse me, 49-14. What are you feeling on this one, Brian?
I'm right there with you, actually. I think Clemson's gonna get in the 50s, and I don't see Georgia Tech getting to the 20s. So give me Clemson in the points there.
Yeah. After Miami burned you last week with the Clemson game, you come back to the Death Star here. All right. Let's go down to Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Pitt, Miami. Miami laying 14 points against Pitt, coming off the beat down in Death Valley. What do you got on this one, Brian?
Man, this one's tough, buddy. This one's tough because after what I saw happen between Miami and Clemson, I don't know what to think of Miami anymore. Are they just a more efficient version of the same team we saw last year? Or are they what some folks were thinking they were going into Clemson? I'm leaning probably a little closer to the former.
Okay.
I think King is good, but until King can make significant completions to wide receivers down the field, I think they're going to struggle against teams that are good up front. And Pitt is nothing if not good up front. So I'll give me Pitt in the 14 points.
I'm right with you. As much as we bagged on Kenny Pickett and stuff the last few weeks,
they still did not break 30 in regulation.
They did not.
My points still stands. If you can get to 30, you can probably beat Pitt.
It's true, and I think Miami will get to 30. But I can see Pitt hanging in there, making it a game. I'm with you. I think 14's too much delay. Miami coming out, probably got a little scar tissue out of last week. They can be an effective team, but you kind of saw what Clemson did against that offense up front. That offensive line is still bad. Pitt's still good up front. So give us 14, and we'll roll with it. All right. We're going to go out of conference for the next one, Brian. And yeah, well, not out of conference. Syracuse is still our in-conference friend here. Playing Liberty. All right, you ready for the shocker of the week, Brian?
What you got, man?
Liberty is laying 3 points.
Liberty is a favorite.
Liberty is a road favorite. Now, everybody looks. Liberty's 4-0, right? That's good. That's real good, right? Fine. Do you know how many of the teams they beat, how many games they've won?
What's the total, man? Uno.
They're 1-9. They are literally playing the worst teams in Division I football. And it's not like, everybody looks last week's UL Monroe game. Oh, they blew their doors off. The other 3 games weren't that way. The other 3 games were super tight. So I'm sitting here looking at Syracuse, who competed with UNC, beat Georgia Tech, competitive with Duke. I'm trying to figure out what Vegas sees in this. And you know what? This is one of those like legal limit bets. Give me Syracuse. Give me the 3 points. Syracuse is going to win this game outright. And I think it's within 10. Somebody just hit a home run, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
All right. While Brian celebrates,
sorry.
Thoughts.
So you're going legal limit.
Legal
Syracuse.
limit. Syracuse. Give me 3. Syracuse.
I mean, honestly, you're pretty much picking someone to win outright, and I think Syracuse wins outright. So give me Syracuse in the 3.
Oh man,
I know we're lining right up here, and this is no drama to our listeners here, but screw it. We got to go with what we know.
It's not drama. It's like looking at factual data. Liberty's 4-0. Liberty's playing shitty teams, having struggles with some of them. Ain't like they're 4-0 winning by 50 each game. So
don't worry, guys. There's drama here in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to get some drama. Don't worry about that. I mean, Plus, it might be one of those things. If we've agreed enough by the last few picks, me and you might look at each other like, screw you. Even though I like the other team, I'm going the other way. I did that
with Uga the other week, and it turned out good for me.
You were thinking Tennessee like I was, and you flipped and you paid off. All right, Brian, let's go up to Notre Dame Stadium, the Irish versus the Cardinals. Notre Dame laying 17 points to Louisville. What do you think here?
Man, this was the one that I've been scratching my head on the most, because Notre Dame is obviously a better team at this point, but I just don't think that they're going to score enough to cover 17. So I'm going to take Louisville in the 17.
Jesus Christ. I thought this would be the one that we would disagree on, but no, it's not. And this is one I'm not going to flip on because Notre Dame's a better team. Notre Dame's going to win this game. They're probably going to get to the high 30s, but I think Louisville still's got a good enough offense to get to the mid-20s, maybe even low 30s. So 17's way too much. We saw last week Notre Dame laying 21 against Florida State. They jumped on them early, but then they kind of turned the gas off. I don't see that this week. I see more Notre Dame getting a little bit ahead and just keeping Louisville at arm's bay, but not by 17 points. So we're agreeing on everything so far. All right.
Zero drama, guys.
Zero. Well, also zero drama because your Braves just jacked another home run dead center field. It's 8-2 in the bottom of the 7th. So
shot, man.
You're crushed that ball. That was wild. All right. So Duke versus NC State. NC State's 4.5-point favorite. Both coming off wins. Duke their first win of the season versus Syracuse. NC State, with a 17-point win up the road here in Charlottesville. But I feel like this is a toughie. Because, what we've seen with Duke when they don't turn the ball over against, upper echelon Notre Dame, 14-point game versus us, a 10-point game. It was 10 points. The field goal does not count unless you bet it, which, ask Scott Van Pelt about that. That's one of those gut shots that they took the other Saturday. But I'm sitting here and saying, is Duke going to continue this path of not turning the ball over a ton? In NC State, Brian clearly did something on the other screen. Is NC State going to keep their roll going from Pitt? I think NC State does. I think NC State wins this game by a touchdown. I think it's going to be a pretty good fought game. But give me NC State. I'll lay the 4.5.
Dude, right there with you. We saw, both of these teams struggle to stop the run sometimes, and I think NC State's going to run on Duke a lot better than Duke runs against NC State. I think that Leary is a little more efficient with the football than Chase Bryce is. So let me take NC State. I think they'll cover that 4.5.
Okay. Me and you again are on the same page. I think what's happening now, Brian, is we're seeing more and more of the teams. We're getting a better feel of who they are. Now, by all means, if NC State turns the ball over 3 times, they could lose this game. They're going to have to play clean, but they're playing. They're on a roll right now.
Yeah.
All
Y'all
right.
can bet on anything I say unless it's Georgia Tech because I have still got zero feel for their games. So.
He put Clemson and Georgia Tech, everybody. Just if there's one game you don't want to bet, just don't lay the points with Clemson. But with Clemson, we don't know. Because they could get up 28-0, just turn the Jets off and be like, we're going to win this game 28-14. We're not scoring another point. And be like, damn you. All right.
They know that they can stop Georgia Tech anytime they want to, so they don't have to sling it to run ETN. I mean, they can just do what they want to do at that point.
Really, they're going to do whatever they want to do as we go back and visit the first pick. All right, Brian. Wake Forest, UVA. UVA, the road favorite at 2.5. So one of those basically pick 'em games, although you do know 2.5 can bite you when somebody wins by a point and you're like, I was on the wrong side of that line. So, Brian, UVA Wake, who you got?
What's the status of Ginger Tebow?
Ginger
Is he playing?
Tebow. Let's see here.
He was concussed last week.
I'm trying to get it up here. Give me one moment. What day was this on? Now, that was the 12th Real Live Radio podcasting here. Efforting. I'm trying to did a search here. Let me jump on the Twitter sphere and see if anyone has anything on Brennan Armstrong. You feel like that line, though. You feel like if he was starting.
If Armstrong is playing, I think they cover. Which, I mean, is essentially me saying I think UVA wins the football game and maybe a little more than that.
Basically, this was a decision day for Brennan Armstrong. So are you taking them regardless?
I think I'm taking them regardless. I'm definitely taking them if Armstrong's playing. But let's go ahead and just say I'm taking them regardless since we don't know.
All right. Well, since we don't know, and UVA does the asinine thing of giving quarterback numbers 36, 99, 98, and 60. Give me one.
Come on, it's a tradition. You pick your number.
Seriously, if I was a quarterback and I walk in, and I don't care if I'm the 3 deep guy, I'd like to get a number. 17, coach. 17's not taken. Cool. 16, not taken. And what is it bleeping taken? There's some in the 30s over here. What? I would just be like, coach, I'm good. I'm just going to go get in the portal.
Man, if I'm a freshman lineman coming in and I don't get my number because a fucking quarterback has it, you know how pissed I am?
Transfer portal same day. Like, I'm going.
Why couldn't you get it? Because some fucker had 60 and I couldn't get it. Who was it? Who was it? D lineman, offensive lineman? Nah, quarterback. Oh, I get it now. I know why you're transferring.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot for doing that. So what number do you get? You're going to be 86 as an interior offensive lineman. And you're like, what the fudge? All right, so
tackle eligible.
All right, so our first variance of the day, Brian going with UVA, laying the 2.5. Give me Wake with the 2.5. I think it's just a lot of hate there. Just want to see them lose. All right.
I want to see them lose too, but I'm trying to keep my numbers up.
Well, maybe the next one. FSU UNC, Brian. UNC laying 13 points. I'm going to kick off with this one.
Yep.
Last week, FSU played a very good game against Notre Dame, and they lost. They covered. They played respectable. It wasn't like the dumpster fire that looked like against Jacksonville State or against Miami. UNC just, what happened with them versus us, we saw it. They ran the ball down our throats. They held back our comebacks a couple times. But I'm sitting here and I'm wondering who gets back to a normal level quicker.
Yeah.
And the way I see is I think where UNC played last week is closer to their normal than what Florida State did. So I think Florida State comes tumbling down this week. I think UNC wins this game. Essentially, Sam Howell rubs it in the face of the team he originally committed to. Give me UNC. I'm laying a 13. I'm feeling UNC somewhere in the neighborhood of, 38-20. So probably a competitive game till the end when essentially the badness of the Florida State defense starts showing through.
I'm right there with you, and I think it's going to be kind of one of those late covers. I think UNC is going to play not quite as good in the running game as they did against us. Number one, because FSU, for all their faults on defense, has pretty damn talented interior defensive linemen that will help everything they have going on. And they're more or less going to be having their starting defense, we think. So I think those two factors keep it closer than it should be. But I think UNC either touchdown late to make it 14 or a field goal late to maybe push it to 17. I don't think that it's going to be much more than a 17-point win for UNC.
Okay.
But I think they definitely cover the 13.
Covering the 13. Awesome. All right. Well, the last game we're going to pick this week is the big one that essentially Saturday night, you'll probably have it on your phone or your iPad, and I'll have it on one of the top two TVs here in the house. Alabama, Georgia in Tuscaloosa without Nick Saban. As I'm sure everybody that listens to this podcast knows, Saban tested positive for the coronavirus. So he's officially out. But now, as we were sitting here, Brian, and you were going through your UVA pick, I saw something that scrolled up on the screen, and I want to check this out. They are potentially saying this might be a false negative test for Nick Saban. I don't know if
he's a false positive.
Yeah, false positive. Excuse me.
False positive. So he might be on the sideline.
He might be on the sideline, and I'm trying to pull it up.
Maybe at least in the booth, just as a precaution or something.
Potentially. Let me look it up here. I mean, it literally scrolled on the bottom line about 5 minutes ago. So I want to see what they said here. So, Brian, while I'm trying to look that up, let me pitch it to you. Bama laying 4.5 against Georgia right now. To our knowledge, no Saban on the sideline. If I find something while you're doing this, I will inform you.
I think that line would be 6.5 if Saban was definitely coaching.
Okay.
I'm still going to take Bama.
Bama?
I think whether Saban's there or not, I'm taking Bama. I still don't trust their defense at all yet, which is something weird to say about a Nick Saban coach team.
Okay.
But I think they're going to score enough points, and I think Uga's going to give out a gas.
Oh, that's a toughie. Trying to look everywhere. I wish it would scroll down again. I would see who's reporting that. Yeah, I'm on that. I don't think Stetson Bennett the fourth and the Georgia offense is going to have the gas or the dynamic play calling to keep up with Alabama like Ole Miss did. That's one thing. If Lane Kiffin ever got his act together and stayed somewhat on the straight and narrow, Ole Miss will be under probation in at least 3 years. Trust me. Trust me on that. But they don't. And, they have Todd Monken come in, who was at Oklahoma State with Gundy and then went to the NFL. So it's getting better. But what you're saying is Georgia's going to hold Alabama down. And I'm with you. I don't think they can do that. I think Bama will get a couple in the first half. They might get one in the third quarter. But in the fourth quarter, eventually what's going to happen is it's what you said. They're going to give out a gas. And I feel like this is like a 35-21 game where it's going to be probably a super fun game to watch as fans, which we won't be doing. So, that is what it is. That's why, minimum 3 TVs when you get your man cave, folks. Minimum.
That's what's happening.
Okay, by the way, rant time. I'm taking
Yep.
down lay the 4.5. Get a man cave. If you don't have multiple TVs, it's worthless. You could have a pool table, a dartboard, a super great bar. If you have one TV, I sit here and say, what game we watching? Oh, we're watching the Braves. Cool. I got money on the college football game right now. I need to watch that. Well, I got one TV. Then your man cave has failed.
Yeah, if I have to follow a game I have money on my cellular device, then that's probably a problem. So you got to up the man cave game.
3 TVs minimum. And if you're spending that sort of money, you can have a nice big projector. You put 2 behind the bar because for your degenerate friends who come over who are betting the Sun Belt.
Yeah. They don't need to be watching that the whole time, but they need to be able to peek over at strategic points in the game and be like, oh.
The 3 TV setup is you get the peek. You got your main on, but you get the peek. And, like watching the NC State game when we got big on, I was watching the top 2 just as much. So, yeah. All right. So, Sieg, late kick this weekend. I bet you smoking something good.
We going brisket.
Brisket.
Yes, sir. Going brisket this weekend, buddy. It's going to probably be a long smoke, but it should be a good one. And then we feast.
Then you feast. I love having the 8 o'clock games, and I know some people growl about it and stuff, but having the 8 o'clock games it's really nice if you're staying at home. If this was a normal season, with the ACC network going to Blacksburg, I'm sure there are people like, yeah, it's cool. Love having night games in Lane. It's awesome. I can get home at 4 o'clock in the morning, though, and it kind of sucks. And it's like, well, if you're going to go for the 8 o'clock game, you need to get a hotel somewhere, Blacksburg, Roanoke, Salem, Radford, and just stay, because, to drive back, unless you have someone who is just willing to drive back, it's just not fun. Now, me and you last year, obviously, 3:30 kicks are the perfect kick for a full day trip.
Yep.
Right?
If you gotta travel from anything more than 2 hours to Blacksburg, 3:30 is the perfect kick because you can still travel in the morning and tailgate, and you can still drive back the same day and not get back, too late where you can still get a little decent shut-eye that night.
Yep, we got back at midnight. We left, 7:15? We rolled into Blacksburg. We hit Sharky's. We hit Tots. We hit the tailgate scene. We even went in the stadium early. So, again, 8 o'clock kicks. My advice, still leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. Just get a hotel room somewhere in the greater New River Valley.
Yep.
All right, Brian, anything else we have missed, with the exception of Arkansas State and Georgia State are now at 101 points. So the over in that game, which I just want to see what it was.
They got punched early and often.
The over-under in that game, original line was 73.
You got smoked.
So at halftime, by the end of the third quarter, that was crushed. Again, it's a Fun Belt game. Who's doing that? All right, since we got nothing else, Brian's Bravos lead 8-2 in the 8th inning.
3 outs away.
3 outs away from going up 3-1. We are going to wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast. My name is Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe for us on your favorite source podcasts, including Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. We do ask you guys, please rate and review. What are we doing good? What do you want to see more of? What do you want us to cut out? As always, we let our buddy Jason Long play us out. Catch him on Apple Music and Spotify. And as always, let's go.
Hokies.